On.
It's like missing the 30-minute break is like, a 10-minute one, whereas like missing the hour break is like really bad. It's like full 15 minutes, policy tracking, as opposed to 5 minutes,
Yeah.
All right, so topic 3.
Models.
So let's make a list of overall. So like this is like the list of models, and then over here we can have the list of priorities for methodology. Okay. Start with the list of priorities for methodology because we've already been going through this. We have the the methods sheet, right? Methodology sheet. And organizing, right? So organizing, methodology sheet. We've got the onboarding and the methodology proposal. We have the training on all of it. so much training to do. We talked about the proposal for our prime
trajectory.
Proposal for trajectory. We have the clear list of what we're not doing. So there is also a spreadsheet there that we are supposed to create and start. We have I think that's everything, right? And then we have the meeting. We have the scheduling of the quarterly methodology review, whatever we want to do. Okay, so quarterly methodology. So those are the ones that we have so far. Let's go into list of models. So there's the vortex model, there's the trajectory model, there's the network model, there's the web model, which we are discontinuing.
Yes. So trajectory network model.
There's the I'm starting from where we are now and going backwards, We got our almost recent ones that are the exciting changes.
The management also.
The what?
The management model, I don't know.
Right, so the management model would basically be sociocracy / bottom up, where basically managers only do status updates, right? All right. So I mean, we could just say sociocracy as its own model as well. Sociocracy is huge. We also going to the things that we know. There's Sensei, right? And obviously Sensei is really the segmented model, and we can go into a lot of details on that because there's a bunch of subcomponents to that.
Okay.
But we'll just leave it as the segmented model is really good. There's also something that we changed in our policies. We had one other proposal that we didn't cover that related to all of this too. Let me see the proposals section.
The team dynamics.
Team dynamics, right? So team dynamics model, huge. That one is big.
Yeah.
I would say our sociocracy model also evolves. Our evaluation model is based on sociocracy. A lot of things are based on sociocracy.
And also
our multocracy model, and then there's also the
I think evaluation model or team functionality model. I don't know.
Democratic trilogy. That's what it's called. The democratic trilogy. What did you say?
I said maybe the evaluation model or team functionality. All right.
The what?
Team functionality.
Model. The team functionality is not a model. That's just a assessment. So it's important to understand that the evaluation model is also part of sociocracy. Right. So we actually have 3 components of sociocracy here listed already. We also have a very, very specific, legal model, which is the opposite of a management model. So the legal model basically is that.
Also, Pinda is part of that, right? Or no?
Pinda model. It's and this is also related. There's the network model. So Pinda is part of the network model.
Then we had Plasmo, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's a model.
Sure, it is a model. So Plasmo and staffing. So staffing in and of itself is just an amazing model, right? And so staffing is one of the staffing. So Plasmo, huge. It's all about accountability and power structure. So super duper key in terms of our modeling.
Right.
There's also a lot of other models like community equity, right? All of our value systems and models, super key. I'm just gonna write value, and then we could go into a lot of decision making, but let's just skip a bunch of this. I mean, we go on forever. But let's just get the big ones. So the big ones obviously are, democratic. What's the best way to term democratic institutional models, right?
Right.
And the key ones to here is like obviously we have the Earth Charter, we have the Declaration of Independence, and we have the constitutions. A constitution that we support. And then from there, there's one other key one, which is the Declaration of Interdependence. And there's also, we're looking at the Declaration of Consciousness. And I'm not sure, I'm trying to change the name on that. Let me double check. So this, I really don't want to do, like, we're either going to end up with a Declaration of Consciousness and Interdependence. I would hope that we can avoid that. So I'm trying to find another term because I don't like the Declaration of Consciousness and Interdependence. This is, oh God. So we'll see if we can find another word for it. But that is definitely foundational to all of our models. From there, the other ones that are super key is, approved, scored, and Olympic voting and star voting, right?
Mm-hmm.
All super key.
So, like, for example, sorry, one question. Sorry, the Support Alliance, it's part of Sociocracy model.
The Support Alliance, no. So the Support Alliance is a program. So life support program.
But it falls into which model?
What?
It falls into under which model?
I mean, I think that life, it's our own thing. So life support is coming out of me, right? I developed the whole life support program. So life support could be a model that, and the model of life support is specifically life support / basic life necessities matrix, right? The matrix itself is a model. Mm-hmm. And then also specifically the idea that, individuals are primary focus, right? So you always put individuals first, right? Not the organization. Super duper important. Because like whenever you put the organization first, everything goes out the window. Like it's makes it 10 times easier to corrupt, but more importantly than making it 10 times easier to corrupt, when the organization comes first, you dehumanize all the people, and you end up like treating everyone like machines. It's really bad.
Fascism and Nazism were putting the state in the before the citizens.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So a lot of our models are based on our life support program. Like everything comes out of the original vision of life support, which is that we just want to support individual beings in their conscious journey. And that's also the Declaration of Consciousness, so which relates to that. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Official proclamation, acclamation. Yeah. So I think all of these are looking. I think this is a good start. I mean, I don't know how much, like, for example, just within the multocracy, right? Multocracy is like dozens of methods and models within multocracy. The multocracy is all. So multocracy is like a whole combination of many different components, right? Another part of our modeling also revolves around, values and principles, right? So obviously our values and principles are slightly different than our models, but it's good to note that our models are based on values and principles, right?
Which is the part of the methodology, right? Guiding documents and principles.
Exactly, right? So I'm just noting here on line 35 that our models are based on values and principles. So that's a system that we utilize for that functionality, that where everything has rooted in meaning. I think obviously just Unity as a model is just obviously everything comes from the Unity and the Unity network and all of my work on Unity. Also, so anyways, you can just list some of these things. You have Unity theory, you got Uniscience. So if we actually go into the methodology proposal and start looking at the list, we could get much more details in all of these, and eventually we can make an entire index where there's hundreds of components that go into these, and especially if you start breaking them down as specific models that can be used as tools, because our end goal here is that it's what was our term? We had this very key term. The overall model, the dynamic modular models of methods. So
D3M.
it's what?
D3M.
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 Yeah, I don't think. I can talk about. There is a vocabulary term I was playing around with. All right. So I'm going to put this over at the top. I'm going all the way to the top. So line 5. Okay, so line 5 is the. Oh, it didn't work. Bummer. Let me get it again. Copy and line 5. Okay, so line 5 we have the dynamic modular model of methods. So terrible name. I don't even want to deal with this name, but the point that I'm trying to make is simply that ideally the end goal is that each model that we are using is broken down into a modular component that can be reconstructed in infinite different ways. So you can take like every single model should be broken down to its modular components, right? So the end goal here, is to break down every model to its quote modular components, which basically means that you can rebuild them in infinite ways with infinite creativity.
Infinite combinations.
Yeah, infinite combinations. So that's what we want to do. It's all about the modular components of each method, and then from there you can actually utilize them and turn them into tools, right? So from the modules you can easily create tools for specific situations within your trajectory. So you're in a trajectory, and the trajectory would automatically align you with the tools that you need from your methods and models that are available to you to address the current situation, right?
Yeah.
So just a list of names is not going to help anybody. What you need is specific modules, and the modules will then link to we'll have a description that'll say, okay, you use this module for this situation, right? So for example, the sensei in the segment model, there's like 5 to 10 modular components within that, right? Like I already mentioned, for a multocracy, there's dozens, right? Under multocracy, right? The democratic trilogy, it's endless, right? So once you break them down into modules, they'll be much more useful, because then you can apply them to specific situations, have descriptions of when and how you use them, and then how it's applied. And then you can actually understand them and work with them, and that's where the magic comes in. So anyways, that could take years and years to get all organized and have basically a resource. So this will end up being the end goal would be a resource, a dynamic resource library, let's call it library for future generations on all of these modules for this, trajectory organizing, right? Modules for trajectory organizing.
What you said? What you say what you say the other day? Where we want to go in this regard, about having the information not dependent to any single, to like that if Google goes down, we don't lose everything. How
Yeah.
do you
So
put
this end goal is that this library would exist on a decentralized,
decentralized,
basically, document file system and blockchain
decentralized system?
verification. Or I don't like the term blockchain. I prefer the term automated ledger verification, which obviously includes blockchains. But so anyways, it may or may not be an actual blockchain, but right now Filecoin is already using blockchain technology. So, it's probably going to be something under Filecoin and obviously ISRN or whatever it's called. I can't remember. All right. Anyway, so this is a good start. It's
Yeah.
only a starting point.
Right.
It's really fun and exciting because this is where the big picture comes all together. And I could go so many more directions and start pulling all things and getting all the links and just pulling it together. But the most important things are, let's just highlight them, are all of these ones at the top where we are getting into our own models. These are the new evolution of our own models is by far the most important. So line 9 to 16, whatever.
I agree. Yeah. So what do you think the next step should be on this?
Well, we're gonna put this into our spreadsheet. We're gonna link our spreadsheet and have everything there to linked with these notes all into the methodology sheet. And then we have our priorities. So these are the priorities here. And we have clear end goals, but this is just the beginning. So it's just like, let's just start checking off some of these priorities and
Okay.
one thing at a time. And, and then from there, it's really just continuing the discussion and the training. So the next trainings, like if we go back to the focus and topics, we had, obviously we need to talk about the vocabulary and improve the vocabulary. So I can go a little bit into that. And then we need to start talking about vortexes and trajectories and understanding them. And then that relates, the most important thing is what this is so what's interesting about, like, unlike any other things I've ever done, right?
Yes.
Every other method I've ever had, it's like you do all the things, you get all the visions going, you get all the planning's there, everything's going done, right? And then scheduling is totally separate, right? And the scheduling is always this separate thing that we're always terrible at, and it's never functional. And then we have the full stops, and we have the full freezes, and we have the upfront pay stop, and it's just onward, all these things to try to fix the scheduling problem and the problem with actually doing the work, right? So this new vortex model doesn't, obviously it can't automatically fix the problem of actually doing the work, right? That's a separate thing. But what it does fix is it automates the entire system. It doesn't automate, but it projects, automate, what's the right word? It's intentionally projects the scheduling process, which is unlike anything I've ever done before. So for whatever reason, it beautifully aligns the whole schedule together. So the things that I have, obviously we have vocabulary. So the next steps for training of what I've already developed.
Okay.
Model. So we have the basics on vortexes and trajectories, which you've already started. and you have the component of the prime trajectory, and then you've got, you know, let's just say the organizing of the all work plan into trajectories, right? So this will list all existing current potential current trajectories, right?
Yeah.
Any trajectory that we enter into that is not on our list, right, obviously needs to be added to the list somewhere, right? So that's the whole thing, is that nothing cannot be in the vortex, right? You have to have everything included in some trajectory. From there, that gets condensed, all gets condensed into our model of our, scheduling priorities and work outcomes, right? Work outcomes and goals. Okay. So the scheduling component of it, I already have a model which I want to present. I don't think we can go through it now, though. We'll go through it soon. But I think, and then we want to go over Sensei, of course, so we can add Sensei there. And I don't know, let's just check and see if there's anything else that we're missing. So there's obviously
you already have a document.
No document, just notes. Okay. A few itty bitty notes. So the web model management models. Yeah. So that's it. Just team dynamics. Right? So we have to go through team dynamics as well. So team dynamics, super key. And then the other component in terms of just like, I mean, I don't have a lot of notes, but the other thing I put in my notes here, let me just grab this. I believe I had some terms in relationship to the overall vocabulary. Okay, this is what I put together. The open segmented trajectory value activity model. OSTVA. Right? So this is just me playing around with some words. I also got, you could play around them in different directions and stuff like that. But the point is that, these are some of the words for me that, like, all of this should just be combined into a single model. It's just one single model that represents how we choose what we're doing, our goals, how they all align with each other, where we're heading, and then how that applies to our value systems, our decision-making systems, our educational systems, our training systems, our scheduling systems, our work management models, all of that all relates. Okay. So it's trying to build, it's like all one single model. And obviously there's many sub modular components.
Yeah.
And we want to, the more we can break down the modular components and understand them, the better for actually implementing the model successfully and being functional. But we don't really have time to get into every single detail of every single module, every single component. Mainly, we just want to focus on the output and outcomes, which includes our scheduling and things like that.
Yeah, the trajectories.
Yeah, and I could really quickly cover my general proposal. Do you want me to really cover that really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's just do this really quick. So the general overall proposal, and I kind of call this a pre-proposal. We're slowing down and we're considering to launch all 5 of these income opportunities instead of just one. Simultaneously, we're building the vortex model, right? So we're building the vortex model and trajectories to rethink our management of hundreds of priorities, to basically downsize to, one prime trajectory, and maybe ideally somewhere between, I don't know, 10 to 20 maximum. For me, I'm kind of feeling more like 12, like 10 to 15. trajectories, or these would be like main or primary trajectories. Okay. So we want basically one single prime trajectory, as few main or primary trajectories as we have, and then everything else becomes a sub trajectory of one of the 10 primary trajectories. Okay.
Yeah, but when you say to launch simultaneously, I mean we can launch one. I mean work simultaneously to launch all these income opportunities. But I mean we can launch one before and then the other one, or they all need to be launched together.
Yeah, I don't care about the launch. So instead of work on all 5. So really, it doesn't. The launch is irrespective, because basically we are disconnecting the concept of a launch from the work. The work itself is based on the Sensei model.
Okay.
We're constantly segmenting it and getting online and building the like we don't stop with LinkedIn. We just keep going. We keep going with what we're already doing, based on whatever the trajectory and the goals. Like we will get to LinkedIn as soon as the trajectory takes us there. But the idea is we don't want to push it too fast or too soon or too late. When the right time is, we're just going to get focused on the LinkedIn trajectory. We're just going to go all the way on it, and that in the social media and in the Sensei model, and just pushing the segments and building all our segments and building all the fundraising into the social media and our outreach. It's the launch almost is not the focus anymore. It's like we just do the work and it's already happening. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, cool. So we're on the same page there. That it's like,
But
it's basically
to keep in mind that our print trajectory is client income, so we want to get to that as soon as possible.
But again, what I'm saying here for the prime trajectory has not been agreed to.
Yeah, it's not been agreed with.
What I'm proposing is that the prime trajectory is not client income, because the other 4 options for income have nothing to do with clients.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see how that evolves. So anyway, but the overall pre-proposal is that we're slowing down. We're doing all 5 income opportunities instead of just SVG. We're building the vortex models with all these trajectories and everything, which basically sets up this. It sets up there's 2 components. There's the schedule and did I add here that the prime trajectory? Yeah. So the proposal for that I am doing for the pre-proposal to pre-propose basically a let's just say broader income prime trajectory, right? So I guess that's also part of the first part. And then we end up with setting up a octant modular scalable work model. Okay, so this octant modular scalable work model. So this is where it gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This model allows for the idea that any individual in our very limited ability to work together globally is going to be all based on, new world, old world, right? So you have new world, old world, but it's an octant model, and we're going to basically, right now we are an Andromeda-based work model. There's just no question about it. 90% of all work happens in Andromeda.
Yeah.
Currently, right?
Yeah.
So the way that I want to focus on Cobalt, right? So Jay prefers Cobalt, right? So what does that mean? So the easiest way to break this down in the scheduling model is everything comes down to 2 things. You basically have the prime trajectory, and then you have work. So let me just double check this to make sure I got this right. Yeah, I think that's right. Managers open source work. Ooh, no, not really. You have I know I tried so hard. It's really, really hard to break it down to two things. So this is where this is the hardest part of all. So you have the prime trajectory, and you have
I mean, for sure the work, but also
work coordination,
yeah,
right?
work coordination.
And it's work / coordination. So it's we know that to get work done, we have to coordinate ourselves and manage ourselves,
Yeah.
which is part of the work, but it's basically the work. The work is the work, right? So whether it's like coordinating or not. So what this means is that you basically have the minimum possible needs for Octant to be functional is 2 sessions per week. So in my calculation so far, there's no way to really have any functionality at all without a minimum of 2 sessions per week. A 2 session per week Octant would be like a 1 to 2 year timeline. Okay, it could go very, very slow.
Yeah.
Very slow. We're doing 2 sessions per week, but it would work. It would function. It would slowly percolate along, right? And on the prime trajectory, it depends what your prime trajectory is. In our case, it's income. So one session you focus 100% on income, right? That's your prime trajectory. It's like you always in that session are focused on income. And then in your other section, it's based on priority of the sub trajectory on either a main session or a buddy team session. And this is really important because what I always say is when we schedule a main session, if the priority is work, you cancel the main session and you split up into buddy teams. And that's why work and coordination are the same thing, because you always can break up a main session and get into work buddy teams, period. So they're the same thing because they overlap the exact same purpose based on priority in the trajectory. If the trajectory brings us to the point where the number one priority is work, you break up into buddy teams. If the number one priority is coordination, you have to stay together as a main session, right? But the trajectory is the same. And so those are the same things. So if you boil it down to just the two most essential components to organizing, there's the prime trajectory, and then there's the work and the coordination, which are the buddy teams, if everybody knows what they need to do, or the main session, if you need to coordinate. Okay, so that's basically the bottom line on 2 sessions a week. But that's just the beginning, and that's where it gets really exciting, is that you can basically go from 2 sessions to 4 sessions to, in this case, 6 sessions per week per Octant. So what that means is that a 4 session per week Octant would kind of be like the middle ground, and then the 6 would be like really ramping it up, right? So what I'm proposing for Andromeda is that I think we're going to a 6 session per week model for Andromeda, right?
Yeah, I mean, we already have all Andromeda all scheduled for the whole week.
Yes, so that's great. And then from there, what I would propose is that we would go to a 2 session per week for Cobalt. So we would slowly be getting Cobalt started with 2 sessions per week while we are just focusing nonstop on Andromeda. So basically, we want to put all our efforts into Andromeda as big as possible. So focus on Andromeda. Don't let Andromeda go. Get Andromeda rolling, more momentum, right? And then as we get Andromeda stable and focused, then we kind of expand a little bit into Cobalt. And if somebody wants to, we could possibly expand a little bit into Hydra. And then over time, the goal is to fully expand and scale to functional New World. And then only after we have a fully functional New World, then we invest in Old World. And then what we take is we take the entire copy and the entire model of the New World, and we just flip it into Old World, and we basically carbon copy the whole thing, starting with 1 Octant at a time, starting with 2 sessions per Octant, and then slowly expand 1 Octant until you get it fully functional, and then you slowly expand it out again. So we just basically replicate the whole process on the New World, and eventually we'll have both the New World and the Old World fully functional. And then that is just going to be amazing. And this model will allow us to just percolate that out. And as we need to contract, we can contract. And as we need to grow, we can grow. But the trajectory and the scheduling are one and the same. Okay?
Great.
So the only other component to this that is worth mentioning is let's just go into the 6 model, because this changes our scheduling a little bit. So the biggest model was the 6, and the 6 are fundraising grants, investments, clients, SVG, and sponsorship. Right, so SVG and sponsorship are very similar. A sponsored organization is basically kind of DIY, but we're doing all their taxes. And an SVG client relationship is where we're getting paid to do their taxes, right? So they're basically one and the same. So then you have our investments in POS, which basically will eventually turn into investments slash root slash diverge, right?
Right.
And then you have the fundraising and the grants, right? Fundraising and grants are also very similar because you're basically trying to fundraise from grants as opposed to individuals, right? And each of these would happen to, oh shoot, I messed it up. Each of these would happen 1 time per week. Okay? And then you have, so this is 1x, 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 and that would represent, and again, it all depends on our prime objective. If our prime objective is just SVG, our prime trajectory is just SVG, obviously this automatically changes our schedule. If the prime objective is not income, boom, automatically changes our schedule. So then the other component is you have an open main session, you have an open support alliance, you have an open work session. So these are the 3 sessions, one per week.
Correct. So what do you mean the open work session, the SVG work sessions that we have?
Correct. Okay. Yes, the SVG work sessions, right? So
we have 3 of those. I mean 2.
Well, no, but remember, this is an SVG work session here on line 102.
Okay.
Right, because this is an income work session.
Okay.
But the trajectory would combine both the clients, the SVG, and the sponsorship into one single session.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So an open work session would be anything that doesn't necessarily involve income, right?
Yes, get it.
Right. So then it's also important to note that this is where things get a little bit more complicated, where we have to take some time to really work this out, is that when you have a multi-octant schedule, which we do have, you get into, and the model that I created was actually, instead of 6, it was 10, right? 10 sessions per week. And so that would be through 2 octants, because remember, the maximum you can have for 1 octant is only 6. And this would be 10, and then you basically have your top 5, and you're multiplying it by each one. So within all 10 sessions, I'm looking at one on each of the 5, right? So if you had a 10 session per week model, you'd have the fundraising, the grants, the clients, investment, sponsorship. So that would be 5, right? And then the other 5 would be, and let me just go ahead and copy that. I know we had it somewhere. Where was it? Here it is. So here are the 5. And this is, I'm almost done. So you have these 5, one time per week, right? So I'll just put 1x here, 1x per week. Then the 5 open sessions are main session, the month, quarter, year session, starting with evals, right? Then you have the support alliance, starting with org, support, and life. You have what open work session, and then you've got the open VA session. Right, so those would be the 5 10
sessions.
That's 10 sessions total. Okay, so again, you can see how it's still very, very constraining, right? We're extremely constrained. The trajectories are going to be very important, but 10 sessions is a lot of sessions per week. So, we're still pretty constrained, But either way, this is I think it's really good. Within each trajectory, you have flexibility, and I want to make sure it's clear that the less we can get away from, fully pre-planned, pre-done work to like having a little bit more open flexibility to focus on the priorities, the better. So all of the second set is very flexible. And it's good to know even these 5 sessions, the umbrella of all these 5 sessions are the same session, which is that it's all the prime trajectory, right? The prime trajectory gets 5 sessions a week. And then, the open organizing gets 5 sessions a week. So
Got
anyways,
it.
hopefully
Amazing.
that
Yeah.
and
The
then
work
this is just the beginning.
coordination.
Yeah, then you can go to three octants and start more, and you can go to the full half world, which is where we want to get. We want to get to a fully functional half world, but let's start with a fully functional individual octant. And then this is where it gets tricky, is that ideally, and I'll put this on line 140, ideally, each individual octant is fully self modular. So that means that if we have 10 sessions per week, or we do 12 sessions per week, like let's say we did full 2 octants with 12 sessions per week, the goal is to try to lay out the schedule in a way where each of the primary required components for that octant exists, right? For example, if you had 1 octant, that was following this model.
Correct.
Right? So because then that would be unbalanced, and then you could run into problems. Whereas if you fully encapsulate each octant as it's able to exist interdependently, then if 1 octant falls apart, let's say Cobalt falls apart again, you're not reliant on Cobalt. You can go right back into Andromeda, and then Andromeda can be fully self-functional in that it can hold the entirety of the organization within Andromeda. And then if Andromeda continues to fall apart, you go from 6 down to 4. And then you could always, as long as you have 2 per week in 1 single octant, you're good to go. It's going to be slow, but we're still there, and it'll just percolate up. But right now we have 6. So let's keep it with 6. Let's continue it. Very functional. We'll try to expand towards Cobalt, but we need to start Cobalt correctly, which means if we're just going to do 2 sessions in Cobalt, we have to balance them between the prime trajectory and the open organizing. Okay. So anyways, this is again just the model that I'm putting together. I'm really excited about it. It builds like from all of the planning and the coordination and the whole trajectory of the vortex into the scheduling for the first time.
Amazing. Yeah.
It is pretty amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Cool.
Super cool. Yeah. And it's also a good fail safe,
Fail-safe. Yeah. The whole system is modular, and it's able to contract and grow and expand and be scalable infinitely. So it's really the whole model is made to be very dynamic so that we can deal with any budget, any time period, any long-term, short-term, whatever.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay, Jay.
Cool. I think we are done.
Yeah. Great session. We missed 2 breaks. We need another break now, so maybe we should do at least one policy track.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to wrap up quickly with the schedule. Just 2 minutes.
One thing we could do with policy keeping, since we're on the topic, is that we can do our new model, which is that I would say we're still at about a 5 on our policies for this session. We did reasonably good. Let's say a 4.8. So we missed 1 or 2 breaks.
Yeah,
it's not too bad. But we followed pretty much most of everything else. Followed 80% of most other policies.
Recording was good.
Yeah, the recording. Thanks to Jitsi.
Amazing.
Yes. Also, this is just a very fun and exciting session. So under my wrap up, I'll put that 7.
Yeah,
7
it's flew really. I just wanted to do a quick wrap up on the scheduling, if possible, because you said tomorrow you're not going to be available for SVG Andromeda.
Well, I do have a doctor's appointment at 1:40 p.m. and I have to be there early, and that's Andromeda hour 2 is 1 p.m. I believe.
It's I think
so Andromeda hour 1
it's midnight.
So Andromeda hour 1 is better.
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. Or maybe Hydra H3. I mean, you said you wanna try maybe a check in Hydra. We check in Hydra and we see maybe Hydra H3. Because then we have Cobalt H2, the support, executive support.
Yeah, so H3 is not going to be good for doing work because we'll immediately be going into the executive session. So the executive session is definitely going to happen. So the best thing to do is basically, if we want to try to do a little work with me, Andromeda Hour 1 is the best, but then you guys can continue, you guys can work without me, and you don't need me to just this one Friday, you know? I mean, I just have a doctor's appointment, it just happens to be at that time.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, no problem. So let's Andromeda H1. Great. And then
Yes.
we can work. All right. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. I think a great session. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is very exciting.
I feel very well. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm hopeful for the future. I feel like, you know, with this new vortex model and the trajectories and doing specifically having a slightly diversified income strategy, I just see no way we could fail. It's going to take a little bit longer. Like, so if we redid the timeline, instead of launching like we currently are launching in the next, you know, 3 weeks, I think the timeline for this new, like getting a few other websites together and kind of pulling it all together as like a bigger picture for FQN or FQV would take another couple months.
I mean,
You know,
yeah.
so an additional couple months. But again, during those few months, we're still soft launching SVG, and we're still looking for clients, and we'll still be interacting on social media, and we'll still be doing segmentation and doing all of the things that we already know we want to do, right? And we could even do a little advertising here and there if we get agreement on the website.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that it wouldn't be our only focus. We would also be working with grants. We would also be making sure our investments get updated and organized, because I mean, we're just losing money by not getting our investments organized.
Absolutely.
You know, we can do it month by month, you know, and then we'll also be, you know, doing our sponsorship. I mean, we have $30,000 in the bank because of sponsorship, or $20,000 in the bank because of sponsorship. Like, you know, we can't ignore sponsorship. It's obviously a viable possible. If we could get our model for sponsorship and actually launch that, I mean, that could be definitely a source in the future for some funds, especially if we can connect that into some grants. Anyways, that's basically the direction that I'm pushing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just see what happens, but you know, we need to get agreement on whatever we want to do. But I think the timeline on that is pretty quick. I don't think it's like going to be super long before we get clients, and you know, it's going to take a little bit longer, but you know, we can easily launch within the month for SVG, and then we would be looking at a timeline of like another month or two to kind of get everything else kind of. I mean, most of it's already there. The sponsorship program is already there, right? All we would really need is like the support alliance and like the umbrella page, you know, because everything else is already there. And then you have, you know, a lot of our social media is already there. I mean, we have at least, I don't know, 5,000 people from different places subscribing to like our different social media.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, once we start utilizing that, it will just grow. And especially if we start giving them cool content in segments and stuff. So I feel like it's definitely pushing 3 weeks to like more like 3 months, you know, but I think it's the right thing to do. And it's not saying that we're not launching for 3 months, because we'll be continually launching the whole time, right? It's just like it might take a little bit longer to get everything set up the way we want it.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm worried. What I'm worried is that we don't lose the focus, the North Star. So whatever we do it by following policies, by being I mean the basics, right? Organized, everybody on the same page.
Imagine if like
That's my only worry.
Imagine if the methodology or the policies was our prime objective. Because like, you know how we always say, you know, policies are king, right?
Yeah.
Like,
could
you know, I mean, I don't know if that's what we would want, or if we could even get agreement on that. But the point is that if it was, we would be a very, very different organization. I think right now we need to focus on income, but it's like, once we get the income more stable, maybe we can make policies our prime objective, or make the methodology the prime
The
objective for
methodology, yeah, or the
generations, you know?
the model,
It's,
or everything.
exactly. Because if the
Yeah, yeah,
methodology is the prime objective, it includes all the policies, and it's like putting it all together in a beautiful modular library that we're providing for future generations to do whatever they want with, to make the world a better place, you know, for them and their own future generations. So it's just like, you know, I feel like it's a really beautiful prime trajectory, and a trajectory for us in our lives, you know, for something that we're doing that's meaningful. So, you know, I
yeah.
would be very happy that being our prime trajectory, but I'm not sure if it's, you know, if we're ready for that right now. I think first we kind of need to stabilize our finances. But imagine, like, Bitcoin's been going up. Stabilize our finances could just be like finding out how much money we actually have, understanding
Mhm.
how it all breaks down, using the nonprofit budget and getting that all set up, getting one client, you know, slowly building the sponsorship program, and maybe writing 2 or 3 grants and having, you know, maybe 2 or 3 grants every year, and then eventually we get a few grants. You know, I mean, if we could write 30 grants a year, it'd be amazing. We could 2 to 3 grants a month, that would be great, even better, because then we would basically guarantee getting funding at some point this year. You know, so
Yeah,
we could do all of those things. We're good. We're in really good shape if you take a step back and we actually do all of the work, instead of just, you know, going down this road of like all our eggs in one basket. I mean, I would give a high probability that SVG is going to be totally successful and totally perfectly fine. Unfortunately, it's not 100% probability. Whereas I
mhm.
feel like this new model that I'm presenting is literally 100%, like, not guaranteed to work, but like 99.9%, like, is pretty much a for sure bet, based on the
No,
fact that we've been here for 20 years already, you know?
I'm totally with you. Yeah, totally.
Well, all right, we're good.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you
Yes.
later then. Right.
All right. Have a
Bye
good night.
bye. You too.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you so much. Bye.